Hello, everybody. Welcome to What Culture. I'm Scott, joined by Ewan.
Hello!
Hello, Ewan, my friend. It seems like Spider-Woman is finally in the works. I hear you know details.
Yes, there is a deadline reported yesterday that Sony have tapped Olivia Wilde to direct a female-led Marvel movie. The outlet reports that said movie is widely expected to focus on Spider-Woman, albeit which incarnation is unclear, and they do mention in the report that ostensibly Wilde is keen on introducing her own version of the character. The film will be penned by Katie Silberman with Amy Pascal producing, and Rachel O'Connor will exec produce. So, initial thoughts, this is exciting because Olivia Wilde is great and Booksmart was great, and I'm really kind of...
She was awesome in Tron Legacy. I randomly watched that the other day. I like it.
I've not seen that since it was out in cinemas, Scott Taylor.
It's a bit of a mixed bag.
What a movie of the 2010 zeitgeist, I want to say.
Yeah,
that's
something
the most,
like that.
Is that the most 2010 movie?
Oh god, the most 2010 movie. I don't know, we can throw that down in the comments.
Either that,
I don't know if Tron might be.
Or Clash of the Titans. I think that might be
It's definitely something with Sam Worthington, yeah.
Exactly, Sam Worthington. We're getting on a massive tangent here, but yeah, no, this is... I'm curious. The whole thing with, Sony's Marvel movies is that they're making so many of them. We've got Venom coming soon with Woody Harrelson and his glorious flame t-shirt and hair combo, which is just fantastic. And they've also got a bunch of other, movies in the pipeline, like the Silver and Black crossover, which was not going to be a Silver and Black thing now. It's going to be an individual Silver Sable movie and an individual Black Cat movie. There's a Silk movie in the works. There's rumors about Spider-Gwen getting her own movie. Then they've got stuff planned for Madam Web. I remember we talked about that a few months ago.
God. And the thing is,
Jackpot and Night Thrasher, I think, is a character. I can't remember. There's so many of them.
In a way, I kind of appreciate just because there was that whole thing about, all the talks that sort of went back and forth between Marvel and Sony, and like, look, if we can just get Spider-Man back, we'll do the right thing, we'll make him work. And after going back and forward, it always reminds me of the way that Thanos gets a hold of the Infinity Gauntlet at the last second. We've almost got it off, and then he just goes, no, it's mine, I'm going to do this other thing. And Sony, obviously going forward, like they've said, like, no, we're going to do right by the Spider-Man universe, and we're going to flesh this out as much as possible. And it does feel a bit strained in some degrees. Like you said, they're leaning on characters that even you haven't really heard of that much or know inside out. Which
There's a reason for that, Scott.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's like they're then going to run with this and be like, no, we have this entire universe. Look, Spider-Man can be his own MCU. And like maybe, but Spider-Woman obviously is a big deal. Yeah. But like these other ancillary characters, it feels like a weird push from Sony to try and just be like, we don't need you, Marvel. We've got our own MCU.
Yes, it is like they're like crop dusting the IP farm, as it were. They're just there, harvesting it all. I mean, Spider-Woman, of all the characters they could have made a film on, she makes the most sense. And the thing that I'm curious about, if this is a genuine new interpretation of the character, that is an interesting point to make, because I always expected Jessica Drew, who is the most iconic Spider-Woman. She was the first character introduced in the 1970s, who is a super spy, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who's really cool and has venom blast things and can fly and has seductive pheromones as well, Scott Tailford. That is a key important note to mention.
Doesn't, mate?
Exactly. And I always thought that she would be part of the MCU in the sense that maybe Marvel wouldn't be able to call her Spider-Woman, and they'd just be like, this is Special Agent Jessica Drew, and she's a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and she does S.H.I.E.L.D.y stuff once Black Widow kind of kicked the bucket. But that remains to be seen. Jessica Drew could be in this film. She could be a completely new version of the character. There is also Julia Carpenter, who you might recognize from the 90s Iron Man cartoon, Scott Tailford. I don't know if you ever watched that cartoon.
I didn't know that was a thing, to be honest. That one's got a really big bucket head.
No, it was a really good, bad cartoon. Of all the 90s Marvel cartoons, the Iron Man one, I think, if we're going to rank all the themes, you have X-Men and Spider-Man up top.
Yep.
And then you have Iron Man. There was the first theme and then the second theme, and then way at the bottom you have the Fantastic Four theme, which if you hear once, it will get into your head for the rest of time. Don't look up.
We both recommend and don't recommend that at the same time.
Don't look up the 90s Fantastic Four cartoon theme. Your brain will leak out your nostrils. But yeah, Julia Carpenter was in the 90s Iron Man cartoon. She's recognizable by her long blonde hair. She has a black costume, kind of looks like the black suit from the Secret Wars comic from the 1980s. But again, another interesting interesting character who kind of has, you know, if Sony wants to go down the route of like all these evil corporations experimented on this person and they got extraordinary abilities like having a goopy alien suit, then she might be a good route to go with because she was experimented on and that's how she got her powers. She's actually clairvoyant as well and has energy-based powers, so that could be something to go with. And then obviously, you know, the big elephant in the room, as it were, is that Spider-Gwen, even though she isn't technically a spider, well, she is a Spider-Woman, she just doesn't go by that mantle, you know, it's always been Ghost Spider in the comics. So she's another option that they could go with, and you could definitely see that, you know, if we're going for like a Booksmart-esque kind of thing, you think a high school feature with Gwen Stacy in a band, I think that would be really, really cool to see play out in live action.
The thing is, with Sony's handling of things, like for me, Into the Spider-Verse is my favorite Spider-Man film
Best
by
comic film ever.
landslide. Yes, it probably genuinely is. Like, oh my god, it's perfect, every single frame. But yeah, that was the thing that made me go, oh, you guys do know what you're doing. It's not Morbius movie. It's not this weird.
I forgot that film was a thing.
Keep forgetting Jared Leto's going to be
Matt
Morbius.
Smith's in that film.
Just happening. It's just happening at some point, you know, going forward. But the Spider-Verse was the thing that made me go, oh, you guys can do stuff that I didn't see coming, and it is genuinely amazing, and that's really cool. Amazing Spider-Man, and it makes me kind of, you know, it does give me faith that they can treat these properties well. Obviously, Spider-Verse is an animated thing; it's in a different realm. But a question I was going to say is, with them quote unquote snapping up Spider-Woman, do you think that will disincentivize or de-incentivize the MCU and Marvel from chasing those characters as well, because they'll be on the Sony side?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that I think we all have to bear in mind, that Spider-Man and the MCU is a temporary arrangement, and that eventually Sony, I mean, I guess it is working to each other's benefit at the moment, but I would expect once Sony have their own Spider-Man universe fully built up, they might just go, well, we're taking our football back home with us, and we're going to have all these characters. I guess the danger, you know, it proposes to Marvel is that we've heard so many leaks and rumors from ostensible MCU insiders that Norman Osborn will be the big bad of MCU phase 4 or 5 and we'll get the Thunderbolts and all this. And I'm not privy to just the nuances of the right situation regarding the Spider-Man characters, which I guess is a little bit frustrating, because you could make the argument that Norman Osborn is as much an Avengers villain as he is a Spider-Man villain, in the sense that that was the same way that, you know, Marvel were able to use Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, because not only were they heavily instrumental in the X-Men comics, you know, they had a key role in the Avengers comics too. So I guess Marvel could maybe find a loophole around that. I don't know. There's probably someone in the comments section telling me that Sony have Norman Osborn hostage and they won't let him leave for whatever ransom. I don't know. I just want pictures of Spider-Man. I'm going on a massive just J. Jonah Jameson style rant right now.
But like, that is such an interesting point, though, because we know this. We kind of know the specifics of the Spidey deal. I know it's been amended a few times, and I was going to say we know the specifics. We know vaguely what they're allowed to do in terms of they are in control of where Spider-Man appears in movies. They get the final say on where he appears in the films, not in the game side or anything else. But that's an interesting quandary, because as soon as characters come up, do they then have to try and quantify or qualify that, oh no, this is a Spider-Man character, this is a Spider-Man villain, therefore we get to have say over this person? Because they're branching out so much from Morbius to Spider-Woman to Silk or whoever. Why is Sony getting so much control?
Obviously we know that the Vulture is going to be in the Morbius thing, so this is essentially just Sony trying to be like, and we're in the MCU too, don't forget. And it is a little bit jarring and a little bit awkward. And I do, you know, the whole politics of the situation regarding the nature of the deal itself, and you know the narrative value Spider-Man brings to the MCU or whatnot. I find it all kind of, you know, very debatable. But that's probably a spicy take for another time that I've already mentioned in another video sometimes. But you know, I totally, it is something to consider. You know, the fact that Sony, when they plug in these characters into their own films, does that then make Marvel think, well, you know, we did want to have Jessica Drew appear as a SHIELD agent somewhere along the line. You know, she is heavily instrumental as an Avenger, has links to, you know, the United. People thought that she might have appeared in Far From Home and when they went to London, because she was born in London. But again, I don't know. I think it's fairly. I think maybe, you know, judging from Deadline's report, this will be a new incarnation of the Spider-Woman character, and you know that kind of lines up with previous reports that I've heard where it's been the case that Sony own Spider-Woman, but not necessarily, you know, the alter egos of each character. So I guess, you know, it's so complicated. I don't know, I have a clue what's going on, Scott. But I hope that, you know, if this isn't going to be a Jessica Drew film, which I somewhat am doubting, given her heavy ties to S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra and all that stuff.
Right.
I do hope that'll leave the door open for Marvel Studios to maybe plug in the character at some point or another. And that would make sense, given if, if Spider-Man goes away, they can have Jessica Drew, but just not call her Spider-Woman, but still give her all the powers. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Spider-Lady?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. It just the one wrinkle in this, as like a sort of takeaway point, is that if I was big Mr. Marvel man and I was looking at the fact that we've done these big Sony deals, I would be wondering how much Sony are waiting to bide their time to let the MCU and the Marvel side of things do all the heavy lifting, establish these characters, establish the universe, and then, like you said, take their ball and go home and go, yoink, that's our deal, we're now over here, and all this beloved, sort of the reputation those characters have, they get to cash in on it going forward. If I was big Mr. Marvel man, I wouldn't trust Sony one
How do you
bit.
think, how Mickey has his voice? How do you think Mr. Marvel Man sounds?
It's more like it's Kevin Feige's big booming voice when he has to get all business-like. So it's big, we're taking him back. It's something like that. And then he has to figure it out.
I will end my kind of thoughts on this whole thing is that I am so confused why they haven't fast-tracked the Silver Sable movie, because Silver Sable is a really, really cool character. You could do...
She's in the Spidey
exactly,
game, right?
yeah. And her whole thing is that she has a war criminal hunting mercenary task force called the Wilde Pack. If I ever want to see a superhero movie from 2020 onwards, I want to see cool silver-haired woman with her mercenary team of dudes tracking down bad, evil criminals. That's desperately what I want.
With twin
pistols and massive guns and everything. I want that, but instead we're probably going to get Jackpot. Maybe Scott will get a spin-off of the Big Wheel, who is I'm fairly certain that's a character, villain. The Big Wheel is someone in the comments, there is a Big Wheel Spider-Man villain, and he has a giant wheel. Maybe we'll get him.
This is the best segue into let us know down in the comments. Maybe there's a character called Big Wheel. Maybe you'll let us know your thoughts on the state of the Marvel and the Sony interconnected superhero universes. But let us know what you think down below. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
And I've been Ewan from WhatCulture.com.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I can't even go thwip because she doesn't go thwip.